And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. I'm Joe DeLeone. With me is my co-host Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. By the way, quick shout, make sure you send in your questions for the Hack Bag this week, 201-834-4308. Hack Bag, 11 a.m. On Fridays. And if you missed this week's Hack Bag, we'll get you on the next one. Submit your suggestions on where Sean should take me for dinner because he owes me a meal. We'll be talking about that on the Hack Bag. That coming up and more tomorrow. Today we're here to talk FCS. We're here to talk about week 7 of FCS football. We've got 2 great matchups. Idaho at Montana State. That's make or break in the Big Sky. And then Northern Arizona versus Montana. Before we get into it, Sean, can you share with our listeners word from Betonline?
New read alert. Thanks, Cam Rogers. Thanks, guys, for keep up the good work. Here's a new read for you. All right, thanks, Cam. BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Not your number one source for everything bad 30th birthday parties. Every stat, matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games with the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs. I've been ice cold, NHL, NBA, and political props. You can bet on the election this year. I'm sure. All right, when the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack, poker, unwind with over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.
Sean, thank you so much for doing that. What are you shaking your head at?
Yeah, I should have read deeper about that political prop. Right. Look, BetOnline, we know about them. They'll set an odd for anything.
Honestly, I mean, there's been some less. What's the word I'm looking for? Less appropriate ones that have been on the site that we're not going to reference, but still is a great betting platform that you should go and check out. Let's start off, Sean, by talking about Idaho at Montana State, number 7 at number 3. Idaho is looking to regain momentum after the recent loss that they suffered. Montana State is looking to establish and prove Sean right. They're all listening to Sean, that Sean has him at number 1. The big thing that stood out to me, Sean, when looking at these 2 teams, this Montana State offense is humming as effectively as it could ever possibly hum. I guess was where I was. Yeah,
they're humming.
Sure, that was not where I was trying to go with that. God, it's been a long day when we're recording this episode. But Montana State, though, what's impressive is that they're running the ball as efficiently and as consistently as possible. Nobody has been able to slow them down at all. This includes an FBS win in this span, huge chunk plays. Sean, I think the most impressive part for Montana State is the fact that Tommy Mellott, who has been a strong quarterback, who's rotated in with Sean Chambers, is now stepping into this role of the ultra-efficient, consistent passer as he's completed 68% of his passes, 12 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So he is slinging it. He is the perfect balance to the rushing attack between Adam Jones and Scottry Humphrey, who are combined for 1,000 yards. And then he adds another 247 on the ground. They are able to do so many different things. The balance is crazy. Idaho's defense is going to have a huge game.
Yeah, it's no kidding. Listening to some of the Tubs at the Club podcast, they are not downselling.
Where do you have time for that?
The importance. Well, I had an extra 20 minutes before we kicked off the show.
Okay.
They are not downselling the importance of this game. It's Montana State's biggest game of the year, at least right now, seeing how Montana has played. And it's Idaho's biggest FCS game of the year. By far, Montana State is legit. Joe, I know you're a YPA guy. I know you're a big-time fan of that statistic. Tommy Mellott, 9th in the country in YPA. He's not just
yards per attempt for anyone who doesn't keep up with what statistics mean. And yards per attempt is one of the most underrated and important stats in determining if a quarterback is actually attacking downfield.
Yes, he is. He is attacking downfield with his legs and also his arms. It's arm. He's not just checking it down.
He's one of those guys who can throw with both arms. He can just
seeing how he's played
doing
this
a double-hander over the head. a chest like an
I
overhead
believe it.
basketball
You know what?
pass.
You might be onto something. The next quarterback that takes up long snapping and starts throwing it dual-handed.
No.
Accurate.
There's no spiral. We're talking about you're kind of holding it like a watermelon, and then you're just throwing it as hard as you can.
See, I think that would be tricky for the receiver.
We just created a new offense. It's a new version of a shovel pass that allows you to throw it deeper than 10 yards.
That's all knuckleball punts that these guys are going to have to catch.
I pitched you on this. I'm sorry that we're already going down this tangent. I pitched you on this recently. I think that this is the perfect facet for the offense that I want to create that I might try in NCAA 25. Where I'm not don't need to recruit receivers. You don't need to recruit any skill position players. All we're going to do is put a tight end at quarterback. We're going to go with a bunch of running backs, and it's just going to be all offensive linemen. So hand in the dirt, out wide, offensive linemen. We're going to start shovel passing. That's how we're going to do it.
Do you think that offense would be number 6 in scoring offense of the nation like Montana State is?
It might. Maybe Montana State could be number 1 if they implemented this. Sorry, let's get back to the game.
Yeah, they're averaging... everyone, I get crap all the time. Montana State number 1, bad poll, bad list. That's real creative responses, okay? But I believe in them because they average 42 points a game and they run that damn thing. 300 yards per game on the ground. It's not the first time we've been at week 7 talking about Montana State being able to run the rock. Me and Joe have been speaking about it since we've been tracking the FCS. But it's so impressive to see that they've kept up such a surging rushing offense that gives teams fits. If you get a TFL against them, unlikely they have a good offensive line. But if you do, you can't take the brakes off and say, "Oh, well, they're just going to go to running, throwing the ball now." No, they're going to keep running the rock, and they're going to bust one. Scottree Humphrey has been a delight for that backfield. It's a really good
Delight's
rushing.
an interesting word to make it sound like he's like some sort of dessert option.
Scottree Humphrey
Not
has home run ability.
Allegory to use for
Tommy Millot, I think, can run over any FCS linebacker in the nation. Idaho, Idaho buckles it up, but they're going to have to really buckle it up. Get rid of the now comfy chin strap. I want to see the Brett Favre cloth chin straps. 3 buckles. You can't even get it yourself. You need your dad to press it into the side of your helmet for you. That's what they need to get the buckles going. Buckle it up, Idaho. It's a legit offense coming at you.
Now, Idaho is going to have to play one of their best defensive games in order to win this. It's also on the road in one of the hardest FCS environments to play and succeed in. We do know that they are running the ball very effectively. We do know that they've got 2 premier defensive players, and the whole defense is loaded with guys. But Keyshawn James Newby has 8 sacks this season. Dwayne McDougal, 5 pass breakups. So there's a ton of production on defense. Can they generate any turnovers, any breakups, any sacks on key downs? That's what's going to be key, because I hate to say this, because actually this isn't like it's a negative take or anything, but because of the injuries at quarterback for Idaho and the lack of consistency for Idaho's situation, their quarterback play hasn't been great. So if you get into a spot where you're down 10 points, I don't know if I can really trust whoever they're turning to at the current moment. Is there any clarity on the injury situation
right
when
now,
you were doing your research?
Not sure.
I couldn't find anything at the current moment.
It's going to be Joseph Fick or Wagner.
Right.
They're both trees, which can be good. I see trees become really good quarterbacks. They're tall. They stand and deliver. They can see over the offensive line.
Kind of tree.
I'd say birch.
Okay.
Pretty slender.
Trees in Idaho?
I would guess so. Maybe a birch or a fir. Regardless, they're not a big husky oak, which I would put in the Dylan Raiola, Patrick Mahomes category thickness. But so they have to be able to be supremely accurate. Neither of them are elitely mobile either. So they just have to run as simple. They have to go back to the basics on offense. Convert on third down. They're at a .355 on their third down conversion on the year. Montana State at a .528. Another reason why their offense is spectacular. But you need to be able to convert on third down. You know that your defense is solid. They're only giving up 20 points per game so far. That's great. That's great from an Idaho team that's faced some legit competition. That's faced UC Davis, FBS teams, really tough matchups. So the defense finds a way to keep them in games and get them wins. But against Montana State, Idaho needs to unlock something in the offense. Maybe it's Elijah Cummings. Maybe they decide we're going to run the rock also. Like how we see when these Montana State-Montana games happen. It just goes back to barbarianism. Idaho is going to have to channel something to actually be able to keep up with their offensive side.
My lean is certainly in Montana State's direction, especially because they get to take on Idaho at home. I think most people are going to be leaning in that direction as well. Everything we're painting here, I don't think it's going to be lopsided, though. Like, I think that Idaho has every capability to play a good defensive game. But if I trust a team late in the game to win in the fourth quarter and it's close, it's within a score, I think that Montana State's built to win in that vein.
It's very possible. I think that they are just so fundamentally locked in this year. They had one bad half of football, and that was in week 0. Since then, they've been lights out. That is something that's good to have on your resume, saying, okay, after that, we battled back, we got in our groove, and we haven't faltered since. A lot of top teams have had bad halves that we've seen. I haven't seen it from Montana State since they've entered FCS play. They're super legit, and Idaho's legit also. I don't need those maniacs thinking that I got some bias or that I'm coming down hard on Idaho. But you have to, if you're looking at this thing objectively, Montana State holds the advantage at quarterback. The defense, we can give a toss-up. I'd give a slight lean to Idaho. Offensive line, that goes to Montana State. Coaching, toss-up, they're both fantastic coaches. So if we're weighing it out, I think Montana State has the slight lean in this one.
I was pretty surprised to discover, Sean, that Northern Arizona is ranked at the current moment. They're ranked number 24. They have always been the notorious spoiler team over the past couple of years. They take on Montana, who's number 14, looking to bounce back after their loss last week. I always tend to lean in this direction, Sean. I always will lean in favor of a team that is frustrated and looking to take that frustration out on an opponent. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from Northern Arizona, but they're pretty down the middle. They're capable on offense. They have a strong, effective defense, but nothing to the extent where, and they don't have any like really big statistical leaders in the country. They're just getting the job done and winning football games. Montana right now is one of the most prolific offenses in the country. We talked about all their defensive woes, all their issues. Ty Pennington for NAU could have a really big game as a result of this, like we saw last week from Weber in the passing attack that they were able to produce. But Gilman, Osmo, and Fife, assuming he's starting a quarterback this game, it's musical chairs at this point at quarterback, which I doubt that they would move away from because he wasn't the issue.
At least putting up the points.
Right. He's putting up he's not out there covering. Maybe they should put him at corner. Maybe he could play
I like
corner.
that. Put dual corners, Fife and Ayat, shut down, lockdown, playing both ways.
Maybe we should consider that. But I'm always going to go with, and it's part of my analysis I had for Alabama this week, for Tennessee this week. If you feel disenfranchised by an unexpected loss, you're going to come out swinging the upcoming game.
I don't think that's unfair. I mean, Montana, they do have the number 3 scoring offense nationally. You can't knock that. They're putting points on the board.
It's so insane that last year, I said this last show, that last year they were so dominant on defense and scoring was few and far between.
It's like pulling teeth.
It was like pulling teeth. And then this is where they are. It's the complete opposite. They're number 3 offense in the country, and they played some good teams.
They're the 95th scoring defense in the country this year. It's the exact inverse. They're giving up 32 points per game. Mm-hmm. The one little trick here, Northern Arizona, 32 points per game on offense. Additionally, there's some voodoo witch doctor out in Arizona, out in the desert.
Wait, how many points is Montana averaging per game?
I think Montana is averaging in the mid 40s, like 44, 45.
Okay, well, there's your final score considering whatever, go ahead.
Understandable, but that cursed witch doctor in Arizona sitting out in the desert gave some blessing to NAU, where they're ranked, which is great. It's been years coming.
When was the last time that they were ranked?
Well, every time that they have one of their back crazy wins, they falter and fall off. But I'm always worried about playing Northern Arizona. The Lumberjacks get up crazy for a big game. It's like they're possessed. And then when they have an equal or lower opponent, yeah, here's my leg. It doesn't have any piss on it. I'll fix that. I'll correct that and piss down my leg. That's what their theory is. But they get up. Montana, I know they're going to be up. They're tired of being a little bit of a media punching bag. They don't want to fall out of the top 10. But this is going to be a little bit closer than I would project it to be.
So I forgot that Idaho beat them last week. So you're telling me that they lost and then they were ranked? Were they ranked the week before that?
I think they were.
We're going to check this really quickly. One thing I will add about NAU, though, the way that they played against Arizona caught many people's attention. Ryan Roberts, good friend of the show, was tweeting a bit about their defensive backs and the way that they played against Teteroa and McMillan. Oh, yeah, they were ranked. They were 25th last week on the stats ballot. So they moved up after losing?
I think a one-score game versus Idaho wasn't enough to drop them off of it. And then they lost by, where am I at here?
Who voted this? Who did this? I didn't. They weren't on my ballot. Were they on yours?
I don't think they were.
I have no comment.
They
have a very strong secondary, but actually that's going to be what I meant to say is that's going to be very important for trying to defend Fife in that passing attack.
Yeah, if they're on and Junior Bergen is rolling and the running backs are doing as expected, not even doing going above and beyond, but if Montana plays a moderate game on offense and a good game on defense, they should clear this. No, I did not rank NAU. I'm not a crazy person.
Is there something that we're missing here? I mean, that's a good close loss, but are we really playing that game?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's weird. I'm not ranking the Lumberjacks at this point. They beat Montana fully ranked, and then we'll have a real big discussion about if Montana stays on the list. I'm getting ahead of myself. Montana just needs to keep doing what they've been doing on offense. Maybe they need longer drives to give their defense a rest because they're scoring so quickly that maybe the defense is getting winded because they're tired of seeing Fife take the top off. They're tired of seeing Eli Gilman go for 70 yards every freaking run.
I lean in this game, as y'all could probably tell. I really think that Montana is going to win it. I think that as we kind of discovered with that close loss against Idaho, that facing, I'm sticking with Montana. I really think that in any spot where a team is backed into a corner, they're frustrated, they haven't played well defensively the past couple of weeks, there's going to be a ton of adjustments, and you never want to be the team that has to go against the team that's made all the fixes, and that's when they're coming out and they're pissed off. You never want to be in that spot if you're a team that's suddenly ranked out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm leaning Montana in this one. They can put a bunch of points on the board. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. If Fife gets hurt for some reason, they have a very solid backup quarterback in Ayat, who is quarterback 1B. It almost doesn't feel right putting him as a backup because Fife's just had the hot hand. I roll with their depth. Defense just needs to get after Pennington and maybe force him to throw his first pick of the year this game.
I have a slight gripe I have to bring up with this week's poll, by the way, that I was reminded of. I put Butler in there and I put Dartmouth in mine. To be undefeated, to be 5-0 after this many weeks, there's two other undefeated teams outside of Butler that have at least 5 wins. I understand that they haven't played anybody. It's one of the things that always bugs the crap out of me with the AP poll for FBS. Mm-hmm. If you got a G5 team that's running through their schedule and they're playing good football and they're undefeated, why are we sticking in the team that's at 500? We've got a 2-3 Chattanooga team.
I didn't put Chat on mine.
I just get super frustrated. Maybe they might have been on mine actually. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I just get so frustrated when we're kind of just doing it based off of they had this good win, so we need to throw them in there. Record is supposed to be the prerequisite for any decision making in a ballot.
I would agree. Butler being 5-0 is a shock. I left them off my ballot when going back and looking at their schedule. They beat Morehead State by 34.
I know that they haven't beaten anyone.
They beat Virginia Lynchburg, VUL, 63-0. They beat Hanover, 53-0. They beat Murray State by 2. Joseph. Murray State they beat by 2. South Dakota and North Dakota, I think, just beat Murray State by a combined score of 160 to 40. All right, that told me more. If they just picked on a bunch of these D2 schools all over the place, they would have way more. I would give them way more of a benefit of the doubt. But Murray State has been such a tragedy so far this season that seeing that they just eked one out against them, I couldn't do it. I couldn't rank Butler.
Screw you for making too much sense. All right, let's rip through FC estimates here. Somehow we tied last week. We're both both went 6-10. I'm 35 and 50 on the year. Sean 35 of 50. Sean is 29 of 50. Could you imagine if we were that bad? North Dakota State versus SIU. Who you got?
I will go with North Dakota State.
Give me North Dakota State as well. Brown versus URI. Why would you put this on here?
Governor Cup, get up for the ranked Rhody Rams. I don't like putting it on there, but this is a rough slate this week for the FCS. I'm going URI.
Screw the Rhode Island governor for wearing a brown jersey. I know he was wearing a Rhody hat, but screw him for putting the brown jersey on. Give me URI. Take it to him.
Really?
Yeah, he was wearing a brown jersey. He looked like a moron. I don't know who he is. He sucks. He sucks. Princeton versus Mercer.
I'll go with Mercer. I worry about this one for Mercer, though. The Princeton could get up for it.
I'm going to take, no. I'm going to take Mercer. Northern Arizona versus Montana.
I will go with Montana in this matchup.
Montana as well. Davidson versus Dayton.
I'm going Davidson.
D for D. Give me the other D, Davidson. Now, or the same D. Quadruple D. SEMO versus 10 Tech.
I am going with Tennessee Tech, the Golden
You're
Eagles.
A piece of garbage.
Oh, they rolled out.
Stink.
They
stink.
They don't stink, and they rolled out some fantastic uniforms last week.
Paxton DeLeone is going to take a dump all over
Crazy
Tennessee
to say.
Tech.
That's crazy to say.
It's perfectly reasonable to say Cal Poly versus UC Davis.
I'm going
to text your dad if they lose that game.
UC Davis. Go ahead, you text him. I'll send your dad's a text on Notre Dame game day.
UC Davis. No.
Yeah. Now we can't do it.
He will show up and take back the bed that he gave.
He could try to get it from me.
He'll come here when you're not here. You will show up with no bed. Cal Poly versus UC Davis.
I'll bend your dad over my knee.
All right.
Jesus, UC Davis.
Give me Uck Davis. Nichols versus Incarnate Word.
I'm going with Incarnate Word in this one.
Nichols. Ewu versus Sac State.
Sac State for the win.
Sac all day. Idaho versus Montana State.
Closing it out with the Bobcats, Montana State.
Give me the Bobcats as well. That's going to be it from us, folks. At Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod, Friday Hack Bag coming up 11 a.m. We'll talk to you folks later.